This is the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. Now, I've got all kinds of handhelds because I love this stuff. This is, of course, a Steam Deck. This is the OLED version, still the king as far as I'm concerned. I've got the original Legion Go that has the 8.8-inch screen, detachable controllers. I put SteamOS on this because that's kind of where I'm at in my life, is I just want simplicity and performance, and I don't need Windows. Now, the reason I bought this is that I felt like I needed something that had a bigger screen, even than the 7.4 inches on the Steam Deck OLED, and I wanted better battery life. This has an 80 watt-hour battery, but I knew it was gonna be stuck to Windows. Now, technically, you can put Bazzite on it, but you're never going to get SteamOS as far as I understand it, and you're gonna be lucky if you get Bazzite to run well on this thing, just because it's Intel-based, and Linux doesn't play well with Intel chipsets from what I've been reading. So I did pull the trigger because of the Xbox full screen experience. I thought, okay, look, it's gonna free up a gig of RAM. That's something. It's gonna kind of hide Windows from me. Okay, that's something. And Microsoft, they appear to be wanting to compete with Valve on this. Now, it just launched on the MSI Claw, but I couldn't wait any longer to get this video out. I cannot get the full screen experience to work on this thing. I've done everything, updating MSI Center M, which is a really garbage software, and then also updating Windows itself, updating the Xbox app, make sure all of my apps are up to date on the Microsoft App Store. It's just garbage. Like, this whole experience, when you're in a game, it's awesome, but when you're outside of a game and you're just trying to get things optimized, not just the full screen experience, right? But just like getting your drivers up to date, your BIOS updated, everything like that. It's more work than I would like. Now look, I grew up building PCs. I had a business where I built PCs, so I've probably built easily over 30 or 40 PCs in my life. If you include helping friends, probably close to 50. And the thing is that I'm kind of over it. I want to pick up and go, but there's nothing out there that's gonna give you what this can give you when you have it all optimized that runs on SteamOS. It's just, there's nothing. But that will change over time for sure. It definitely will. We're still in the early phases of the handheld PC market, and we're not going to get major changes every year just because of the nature of what you're dealing with. You're trying to get a handheld, which means you need efficiency. And I don't want to go down on that tangent too far, but effectively, don't expect major leaps every year. Try like every 5 years. And I think, at least for now, and that's, I think, the reason why we're not getting a Steam Deck 2 right now, is where Valve is waiting until they can get you a similar handheld experience, but with maybe higher resolution and maybe even slightly better battery life and better display. Okay, but we're getting close. So this video is gonna be less about performance and more about like living with the device. I'll do some more videos in the future where I show you some games. This game right here is called Gigasword. This is a non-intense Metroidvania side scroller. It's been a ton of fun so far. I love it. And you might be wondering, why don't I just play it on the original Legion Go? Because it's a bigger screen, 8.8 inches. I just don't find the Legion Go to be all that comfortable. Even with these 3D printed grips that I got off of Etsy, it's just not that comfortable of a device. This is, the weight is lighter, the weight distribution is better, the grips are better, and I think the display it's not as contrasty, right? But it's not as reflective, and that's a big deal for me. I don't like a lot of reflections coming off my screens. I don't play in the dark. If I did, it'd be a different story. Okay, so let's talk about this device. Something I have to give credit to for MSI is this is so freaking quiet. Even when I was testing it with games that require more demand, it was always quiet. Even when I went into the Center M, go into my user scenario and I move it from AI engine to a manual mode, and then I jacked up the TDP to 30, it was still pretty quiet. And I'm saying that relative to other handhelds I've tested, like the Legion Go S, which is the furthest thing from quiet. This thing really rocks. But like this whole experience, like look, now I want to go back to my game, I've got to do this. Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Grew up building PCs, it's not a big deal, but I want a console-like experience because I'm an old man now, and I'm just not getting it from this handheld. But maybe once I get full screen experience to work, that will change. Okay, so it's a quiet device with a built-in fingerprint reader, and to me, that is really an important thing. I love having a built-in fingerprint reader. There's a micro SD card slot, 2 Thunderbolt ports, and I do have a Thunderbolt docking station connected to a 34-inch ultra-wide OLED. That's my home setup for not just for gaming off my desktop, but also when I'm working off my Mac. And I'm a huge fan of Thunderbolt. I just don't see myself docking this. I don't see myself ever wanting my handheld to be my PC, but you may want that. Headphone jack, volume buttons. This whole array is fantastic. I love the way this looks, like a bunch of claws. I love the way this looks. I like the accessibility of these things. You know, like if you have your Steam Deck in your hands, getting access to everything, it does for my hands, which are like 7.5 inches from the tip of my middle finger to my wrist where it articulates. I still have to kind of bring the device up to hit the power button and then bring my hands this way and my device down to get to the volume buttons. That's less true for this. I don't have to do quite as much reaching, but it's pretty close. Sorry for the noise there, I'm cooking. Okay, yeah, so accessibility I think is better with this entire cluster up here. If you look at the grips on this thing, they're not as pronounced as other handhelds. Let me try to get this into focus for you. So like for example, the Steam Deck, I think the Steam Deck is just the best when it comes to the grips. I haven't tested the new Xbox ROG Ally X, mostly because I hate saying the name of it, but that's a joke. But also I just can't get my hands on all these things, and I don't have relationships with these companies. Other than Lenovo, they do let me test their handhelds. And even against the Legion Go S, I still think the Steam Deck is the most comfortable. It's not close, honestly. Even though it's better than I expected, it's better than the Ally X, the original Ally X and the original Ally, it's still not up there with the Steam Deck. This part here, where your palms go, needs to be more pronounced. And then I think it has a fighting shot. Now, you'll notice that the height on these things, they're not too different, but the problem, I think, is that this device is so much thicker that if they made the grips, we need a name for these things, but this little well here, if they made this more pronounced, then the whole device would be a heck of a lot thicker. And maybe they're trying to avoid that. So the thinness up here of the Steam Deck with this pronunciation, I think allows Valve to have more pronunciation down here and get you just more comfort overall. But like that's really all there is to it. The bigger the handle part is, the more comfortable these devices are. So look at the PlayStation Portal, and of course look at the ROG Ally X Xbox Edition. More comfortable because they're effectively controllers with a screen in the middle. It's basically what it is. Okay, the entire face cluster is very, very comfortable. So putting the palm part aside, just accessing the face buttons, the additional buttons like the center M button and the quick menu button, start and select, all that's easy. The sticks feel very good. I wish they were a smidge tighter, just like the Steam Deck, but they still feel good. And then your D-pad I don't use the D-pad much, even for these Metroidvanias, which are primarily what I play. I still really use the analog sticks. But that's not always true. It kind of depends on the game. But mostly, like probably 85% of the time. And I like both the D-pad and the analog sticks. I just wish the sticks were a little bit tighter. The face buttons to me they feel they don't feel like they belong on a $1,000 device. I don't want to say they sound cheap or they feel cheap, because they don't quite. It's not quite that. I just wish they were tighter and maybe had a little more spring to them. So here, give it a listen. And now listen to it on the deck. You probably hear that on the Steam Deck, it's not as loud, right? It's a little more hollow. Here's the Legion Go, the original. And I can't communicate this through the video. There's just something about when you press these, it just feels like, gosh, I need a way to describe it, but it just doesn't feel as springy and premium as I would like. I wish they were just maybe more like the Xbox Ally. Wait, let's go with the Ally X, the non-Xbox edition, because I haven't tested that one, but the Ally X, which was more like the Ally X. Okay, and then on the back, forward-firing speakers, they're very good. And then on the back, you have your ventilation. This is quite the badge, but it's cool. It's cool. And then accessing these buttons is super easy to do. You have your triggers as well. Now, I do like the triggers. I have no complaints about the right trigger, the rear triggers. They're all very good. But one thing that Lenovo has done that I think needs to become a standard now on PC gaming handhelds is Lenovo has a hair trigger option where you can adjust the depth. Now, it's binary, but if you just at least do that, it does help a lot, because some games will require that you use the trigger a lot, and when you don't have to travel as much, you can go faster and it's more comfortable. So as I mentioned, you do get the fingerprint reader that's embedded into the power button. So as I just did, if you put your finger on the power button and then you press down and you just kind of hold it for a half a second, it will then bank your fingerprint and it'll pass it all the way through to the login stage, and then you're there. Okay, so I use Hibernate instead of Sleep because I don't want my handheld to wake up on me randomly. And it mostly works. It takes like 10 seconds to get back into a game. It's definitely something I can complain about, 100%. But gosh, it's not that big of a deal. If it had an instant on, just like with the Steam Deck, life would be a lot better. Okay, so one of the biggest problems that I've been having with the Claw is the responsiveness of the MSI Center M quick settings. I pressed that button, it took a few seconds, maybe like 5 or 6, and it finally came up. That's not always the case. For some reason, if I'm playing a game and I'm not paused, it's gonna sound weird, it doesn't quite work. Let me just fire it up real quick. So here's Gigasword. I'm not paused. I press it. Well, this time it's working. Let me move around a little bit. All right. Well, it wasn't working when I was playing Possessors. So not a very good test, I guess. But anyway, it doesn't always pop up the way I would like. But when it does, great. You can get in here. You can adjust your brightness and your user scenario, which is you want it, basically your TDP. And then you can do a little memory cleanup, which I haven't used. So it's all good stuff, right? Change your controller mode, all the stuff we're used to. By the way, if you use the real-time monitor, you will disable your VRR, so don't do that. Then there are a bunch of other settings that you can get to. And something I haven't figured out is how to do in-game or per-game settings like you can on SteamOS or in the ROG Allies software. You can create a profile for your games and say, I want this game to run on AI mode. I want this game to run on a 15-watt TDP and this one on a 20-watt TDP. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, and it's really annoying the crap out of me. I don't mean just in the quick settings. In the full-blown MSI Center M software, I cannot figure it out. Another thing, why do I not have a battery percentage? At least give me the option to change that from a bar to a percentage. This is a PC gaming handheld. These things do not have 5+ hours of battery life, so I'm constantly thinking about battery. I'd like to know if I'm taking a break, do I need to charge it while I'm taking my break? I can't figure that out just by looking at this thing. So anyway, give me a percentage there. You can look at your performance, which is cool. There's a whole widget store I've ignored. And then you get to Tooth and Claw. So Tooth and Claw, I would say, is a requirement if you're going to run this, you're going to buy this handheld and play with it. Here you can disable CPU boost. Now, I've seen mixed reports. I'm reading through a bunch of Reddit threads, but it sounds like if you do choose to use a CPU boost, you could be hampering your overall performance and you could be contributing to a micro stutter that is perceptible in some games. I have seen micro stutter, but I don't know the cause of it, and it wasn't persistent, and it didn't go away when I changed this. Like, it was just there. Like, I minimized my game, went to Windows, did something, came back, and all of a sudden things are stuttering. Maybe VRR got disabled, I don't know. I just don't know enough about these things to be able to give you an answer on that. But you might want to consider just disabling it unless you really need it, because some games do lean on the CPU, but not all. Okay, and then frame synchronization, so that's your VRR, change your resolution. I don't know what's going to be best here for scaling settings. I've just kept it on display for now, as I'm not scaling it in any way anyway. And then you can adjust, you can turn on XE, for example, if you want to. I've kept it off. You can adjust the FPS too. So here's where you can jump directly into a targeted frame rate. I've just kept it off for now. Mostly because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go here. And then the other part of Tooth and Claw is you can adjust the color. And then they added Intel adaptive image sharpening. And if you overdo it, it looks terrible. So I've kept it on a low amount just for now. Then you have full-blown center M. So you notice I press the M button, nothing happened. I press it again, now I'm finally in it. And I get my percentage. So I know MSI has this information. Just please share it with me, that would be great. Even from here, you go to game profile, it doesn't allow you to actually change the game's performance settings, so that's a big letdown. User scenario, you can adjust your performance settings. There's an advanced mode. This is just choosing between keyboard and mouse and gamepad. And then this is where you go to update it and adjust your Wi-Fi, and then there's some global setting options as well. I'm using that AI engine like I mentioned, but you have other settings within the AI that you can do. This is where you adjust the lighting. So you'll notice it's set to off, but it wasn't off. It was doing stuff. I normally put it on steady with this teal blue color, and then it just decides to change to something else from time to time. I don't know why. And then, whoops, apply. There's some things you can do around noise cancellation, but I don't use microphones when I game anyway, because I mostly play single player games. You can get battery information, so forth and so on. And then when you're done, you could minimize it, or you can just go right back to your game by swiping up and clicking on the game. Oh, my bad. You do have to minimize it first, and then you go to your game. Okay, so performance. Well, performance has been hard for me to measure because I've spent so much time, whether I'm in the Intel drivers, oh, you know what, we should talk about that, or I'm in the MSI section, or I'm in tooth and claw. So I was poking around and I saw that the Intel graphics drivers have their own set of settings. So this by default is turned off, shared GPU memory override. So I turned it on and I went with the default for now, which is an 18 gigabyte memory limit for the GPU. That might be a little too much. It depends on the games that you're using, but I was playing Possessors, which is definitely more demanding than Kick a Sword. And when I changed that, I was getting at least 10 more FPS. So I was going from like 43, 45 up to the 50s, and I'm pretty sure I hit 60 from time to time, which is still like, I don't love that. I wish I were more like 60 plus, but you know, I'm just negotiating with every game. I've only had this for a few weeks. I turned on frame sync, and you can do another FPS limit here. You can do a low latency mode here. Like, question is this going to be competing with any of the other settings from the other applications that I've shown, and which one gets priority? I don't know the answer. Even on the display side, I don't know the answer. Like, now there is display scaling. Good, is that it's in unison with my MSI, with my tooth and claw settings, but which one, if I change it here, which one's gonna get priority? I'm not quite sure. Oops, I didn't mean to touch that one. Well, anyway, okay, so now as far as like performance goes, I've been really happy. I've gamed on this a ton, right? I spent more time playing than I have messing around with the settings, but I've actually enjoyed my time with it. I truly have. I just wonder, do I need this? And maybe I'm better off, since I'm like, as I've explained, this is my personal preference here. I'd like to just be able to pick up and go. I thought full screen experience would do that, but I can't even get the full screen experience to work on this. I know there's Vive tool and there are ways to do it. I'm just trying to stick with the out of the box process that's been outlined by Microsoft. I think that was on the 21st. They announced that full screen was coming on the 21st. I still can't get it to work. But anyway, I'm not asking you guys for your opinion necessarily, but you're welcome to share it. I think sticking with the Steam Deck is probably the right move for now. When I got rid of my Ally X, which has a smaller screen, 7 inches, I was so happy just to game on my Steam Deck. I started traveling with it again. I travel quite a bit for work. It's like, you know what? This is great. I'm loving it. Steam Deck is just perfect. It's just perfect for me right now. I wish it was higher resolution. I wish it was a slightly bigger screen, but everything else is just like the best. I can see myself also enjoying the MSI Claw. I just need a little more time with it. But yeah, that's the fun part about these handhelds, guys, is that up until recently, they weren't all that expensive. I remember when the Ally X launched, I think I paid $700 for it. And yeah, I think it was $800 and it was on sale for $700 at Best Buy pretty soon after launch. And then the price went up to $900 for the exact same device. It's crazy. All right, so yeah, those are my thoughts for now. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.